Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this month's webinar. This is a topic that's near and dear to our heart: how to capture employee feedback at the right place and at the right time. We've relied on surveys to get employee feedback on key HR events, whether it's a new hire, new hire manager, recruiter, benefits. This is a vehicle to get feedback on the process, their experience, and usually it's used to improve the process and the overall experience. For this webinar, we have Melissa from Wilson team to share her experience on using surveys to get feedback on their new hires. We will then have Girish Reddy from Onward give a demo of OnSurvey. It's a built-on Workday app to run, create, and send surveys all within Workday. Before we get started, couple of housekeeping rules. Please keep your mic muted so that way we can avoid any static and background noise. Use the chat window to post your questions. We will cover them during the Q&A session. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and we will share the recording in our YouTube channel by next week. Let me set some context. Surveys are not new. In fact, we have a wide gamut of survey tools that cost nothing to $700,000. In our experience, one of the key design considerations when we use a survey tool is the integration to the core system, in this case HR system, specifically Workday. And the integration has to be done both ways, right? Where we will need the employee contact details that needs to be imported from Workday to the survey tool so that we use the details to send it out. And similarly, the survey responses that are captured in the survey tool along with the insights need to be imported back into Workday. Second, lack of context. When we submit the survey, let's say from employee or a worker as an example, right? We will, additional details like the manager, office location, department, cost center, that will allow for slicing and dicing and analytics and generating the right insights. Of course, there are two ways. One, having these information integrated, or have the submitter repetitively key in this information again, making that survey process a way where a lot of repetitive data needs to be submitted again. Lastly, the whole purpose of surveys is to get the feedback and improve the overall process. With additional integration, setup, and processes that are involved that move from the data to insights to actions to a much lengthier process, wherein sometimes you miss out on why we wanted the surveys to be sent in the first place. This is to just set the context, right? With the use of a survey tool, even though survey as one tool to send it out, additional things like integrations, dashboarding, some places data warehouse, export and import of employee contact details, turn it into a whole project by itself. Is there a better way? Is there an alternative? Right? That's what we want to have this webinar focus on. With that context, let me have Melissa give an overview of Wilson, how they used to generate send surveys and generate insights, and how they have standardized on Workday to send surveys and receive responses and their lessons learned and experiences. Melissa, over to you. Give us an overview of, set the stage with who is Wilson and then, your experience, please.
Great. Thank you so much, Prabhu. My name is Melissa Balgley. I'm a program manager with Wilson. We are a talent solutions provider based in Tampa, Florida. We work globally, providing recruitment process outsourcing, executive search, contingent talent solutions, as well as talent consulting. And today I'm going to share a little bit about our survey strategy, starting with the challenges we faced and how we've leveraged OnSurvey to really drive real change within our survey activities. So to start a little bit with what wasn't working, this is very similar to what Prabhu just shared. Our surveys were scattered. Some were in Workday, some were, I'll call it Workday adjacent, some were external in Microsoft Forms. And to be perfectly honest, some just weren't happening at all because we knew that it was just too complex to kind of put it in place to really get those fast, actionable results that we would want out of doing those surveys. In addition to that, aligning the survey data with Workday data as our foundational, both HR and Fin's data set was just a headache. We weren't able to tie it back. We were using VLOOKUPs. We were kind of pulling things in to pull them together. And it was just really a challenge to analyze the results that we were getting back in our survey. In addition, we had some challenges with kind of native Workday functionality with some of the questionnaires that I'll get into a little bit more specifics with some of the examples in terms of kind of how business processes flowed and how we needed that to work with our targeted audience as well. So to give some specific examples of the surveys we've been able to look at, the first is candidate experience. This is actually something that we lost some functionality in moving from our previous ATS into Workday. When we implemented Workday recruiting, we were told by our implementation partner that to collect candidate feedback from any candidate who passed through interview, it would block the business process, and the recommendation was to go outside of the system. This, of course, creates those challenges we just talked about. Now it's a manual process for someone. Where is that data coming from? It's not connected to the candidate record within Workday. So when we first started talking to the Onward team about OnSurvey, we knew this was one of the first ones we would want to start using. And this is exactly it. It allows us to target that audience for all candidates that go through that interview stage based on their job application process. We're able to get that data connected to the candidate record right within Workday to ultimately be able to capture feedback about our recruiting process. It's really important to us to have an excellent candidate experience. It's what we do as a company. We want that to reflect with our own internal candidates so that we're able to address any adjustments that are needed right immediately as soon as we get that feedback. The next one is a new hire survey. This is something we've always done. We do it at 7, 45, and 90-day benchmarks after the employee hire date, and it had always been part of the onboarding process directly in Workday. That worked fine. Kind of thinking about those challenges, it was automated, it was in our process already, it was connected to Workday data as well. But looking at how OnSurvey this now is going to allow us to remove from the onboarding business process while still using the onboarding business process as basically that trigger. And what that will help us do is improve some of the pain points our HR operations team had in terms of having that as part of the business process, which then affected when they were using the onboarding status to follow up. It was showing as kind of onboarding was still pending, while the critical onboarding tasks were not. It was just this survey. In addition, the way that the OnSurvey app is built on the data model allows us to have more flexibility with the respondent business object, which allows us to target based on location, based on cost center, based on manager, based on job profile in a much easier and more flexible way. The last example I want to talk about is the pulse survey. Our next pulse survey we're planning on launching in OnSurvey. This helps us gauge employee sentiment across the organization. Previously, we were doing this in Microsoft Forms, and kind of like Prabhu said, we went with the approach of having people input their own information that we already have in our Workday foundational model. So they had to put their team, their job, their location. What we were finding is actually people were intentionally putting incorrect information in there that skewed our results. How did we know that? They would bring something up that was not relevant to their team or their region, um, which which inhibits our ability to act on the data. So with OnSurvey, we're switching from a anonymous survey to a confidential survey, and we have the confidence to do that because it's built on our Workday security model that we know and that we trust. So we know that that information that's coming back in is only accessible to the users that we want to have access to it, which in this case will be our HR team. This also allows us to, in the analysis of the information, we can then use our normal Workday tools, use our RAS reporting to drive directly to our Power BI tool, to analyze immediately as surveys come in. And as the responses come in, to be able to again filter by whatever our foundational data that we need in Workday, be that personal demographic data like gender, like generation, be that job data like job profile, cost center, specific managers, whatever it is, we have it. We have our model exactly how we want it. We can now see those results from there. So you can see that this really helps us not just collect this data, but really act on it. That is a core tenet of how we run surveys across our business. And this allows us to make those quick, actionable changes, whether that's in our recruitment process, our onboarding process, or our broader employee experience, and really help us build that feedback loop for those improvements on what our people really need. Looking ahead, we are looking at expanding this even more, supplier surveys as well outside of the HR world. Like I mentioned, we do use Workday Fins. We already have supplier surveys wrapped into our supplier onboarding, but one challenge has been our ongoing annual surveys for some of our ESG initiatives. Um, so this allows us to again target that audience based on supplier size and location, which is where our ESG goals are focused, to send that directly to the people we need it to. And another one that was an absent survey that we just weren't doing are targeted team level surveys. This is something we've talked about for a really long time and hadn't really been able to strategize and implement in a feasible way. And now OnSurvey will allow us to do that based on certain teams, certain managers, certain regions that we know need more targeted feedback for that more targeted action. So you can see that this really just allows for the flexibility for us to scale and adapt as our needs evolve. And we're really excited to partner with Onward to do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa, for the overview and the use cases. A couple of questions, right? Like, maybe we can zoom in on candidate experience or new hires. How are the survey responses planned to be used to improve a process? Like, do you do scoring? Do you do any type of, sentiment analysis? If you could give us insight into how does the survey response, are planned to be analyzed?
Absolutely, yeah. We use a mix of kind of quantitative and qualitative questions for both of them. Some of the quantitative ones help with our team SLAs for kind of certain satisfaction scores. And so then we can see those trends over time. We get a lot of our actions actually more so out of the qualitative, that the teams that run these processes do the analysis and see where there's targeted responses. They usually do it based on they kind of do weekly, monthly, quarterly trends to then be able to see where specific things are. For example, today I was just looking at a new hire survey response, and there's a group of workers that, well, here I'll give two examples. One was that there was a specific worker that was confused about the statutory time entry process for how they get paid for statutory holidays. And so then the HR team can reach out specifically to that person immediately. That's usually within the week-long analysis. So within 1 week of getting that response, they provide that back. In a month-long response, we saw that there was a specific team that from the recruitment process did not have clarity about, or kind of there was some confusion around what their job and roles and responsibilities were. And so then, in kind of a month-long analysis, after seeing several of these come in, then the team can target to help the people recruiting for that particular function be more clear about what is needed. Similarly, the metric scores can kind of see if we dip below our intended SLAs to kind of look at quality improvements in that area as well.
Exactly. Great. I think, measuring is a great step to understand the current and what is the end goal to improve the score. Excellent. Um, Second is, like, in terms of survey, what questions to ask is a important one, right? Maybe give us some insight on how do you go about defining the questions, like what sort of questions to ask in the survey.
Sure, absolutely. It really depends on what we're trying to action at the end of it. So, I kind of gave these examples of the new hire survey, so I'll stick with that. One of the things is that we're targeting is we have a specific population that is for a temporary workforce that is um, they're not at their computer, they're maybe a little less tech savvy, and our concern is that our Workday onboarding process might be too cumbersome for them. And so that's something that we ask specifically about that. How has your experience been with the Workday onboarding? So we know that we might have these kind of pain points, and targeting those questions. We try to ask questions that we will specifically action on if we get certain answers, and vice versa as well. If we kind of have an inkling that something might be difficult, or there might be a challenge, or maybe there's a rumor that there is, and we want data to prove it, those are the types of questions we put in.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Melissa. Um, we'll move on to see a demo of OnSurvey. With that, let me have Girish give an overview of OnSurvey, set the stage, features, and followed up with a demo and maybe a sneak peek into some of the new features we plan to highlight at Workday Rising as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Prabhu. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. So here's our OnSurvey web application. As Prabhu mentioned, this is a built-on Workday app, which Workday helps with the provisioning. Once customers want to try it out, Workday pushes the app into the customer's tenants. The setup and configuration, I'll walk you through it, but it's a couple of steps in terms of setting up the app. But once the app is set up and ready to go, it's quite straightforward in terms of how you want to use it. Essentially, there is a new survey button that you can click on and set up your survey. This is where you tell the application what kind of audience this survey needs to go to, what template, which is essentially the list of questions, what template should be used, and how do you want to distribute the survey to the audience? Do you want to email them, use Slack or Teams, or just get a form URL? So I'll walk you through those steps. So here you give it a name for the survey. Let's engagement survey. Can give it a description. We provide a bunch of templates out of the box. These are either customer related, supplier, student, or obviously a bunch of worker related templates as well. You can select any one of these existing templates, or you can also create a new one from scratch using our application. I'll walk you through that in a second. So let's say we want to do an exit survey. You can select that template. You can select one of the security domains. Security is a big part, obviously, of Workday in general. given the kind of data that is handled, HR and sensitive data. And that same kind of security framework, which is security groups, security policies, is implemented as part of this application. What this allows is customers can select a security domain which controls who can see the survey responses. Using this, you can say that the survey responses should be visible only to, let's say, HR team. Or you could expand that to say all survey responses can be seen by HR team. But if you are a manager, you can see your team's responses only. So that kind of flexibility is provided as part of the app, working in conjunction with the Workday security framework. Then comes the recipient selection method. So here we have provided a few different options. Again, leveraging the fact that this is a native Workday app, we can provide a selection method like common event, where we provide all the list of events, whether it's hire, termination, work anniversary, etc. Across, again, workers, customer, supplier, student, uh, essentially any kind of business process event that happens in Workday, you can tie a survey with that event. Because this is an exit survey, let's say I want to say that this is a termination event that I'm interested in. And you could also give it optionally an offset. So for example, if you've been terminated 10 days after termination, or this might be if you are hired, as Melissa was saying, 7 days after a hire, 45 days after a hire, you can set it up in such a way that it's fully automated. You configure it once and then enable the schedule such that at 7 days after a person was hired, the survey gets sent to them. In order to make sure that the survey is answered by the intended recipient, you can enable authentication. It's disabled by default. If you want to do anonymous surveys, that's possible as well. You simply disable authentication. So that's one option we provide. For invites, we support few different options. Email, Workday inbox is another one where you get a notification into your Workday inbox. Or we also provide native either Microsoft Teams or Slack, where if it is a quick pulse survey, uh, an engagement survey that you want your uh, workers to quickly complete, then it could be a good way to send a quick notification through Teams or Slack, and the application opens up within Slack as a quick form that they can then complete. So this is how you set up the survey for common event. Let me quickly walk you through a couple of other options. Custom report is another one, which allows essentially any custom report that you have defined in Workday and use the output as the intended audience. So for example, if you have, like Melissa was giving a couple of good examples, targeted teams. If you want to target a particular survey to a very specific team or a location, you can use custom report with a appropriate filter. Or if you want to send it to a set of suppliers, you can do that. Uh, any kind of custom report allowing you the flexibility to apply the relevant filters can be used. And the resulting output of that custom report is what is used as the audience. We have form access, which essentially, once you define the survey, the form appears with a particular URL that you can then share either via email or in your ticketing system. Anywhere you want to have a static form, you can use that option. We've also added a new feature for peer feedback. Essentially, this allows you to send the survey to all your workers, but now the intention is for them to provide feedback on their peers, their colleagues. So they can enter the name of the person that they want to give feedback for, and then the supporting reporting requirements will be in such a way that you can filter who this survey feedback is for and get additional feedback that way. So that's a new feature that we've added in terms of allowing not just you to submit feedback on yourself, basically typical survey response, but for peers, your colleagues as well. This is how you set up the surveys. You can enable the schedule. Once the schedule is enabled, it gets sent automatically. We also provide a quick test button, essentially allowing you to quickly test what that survey looks like, whether it honors the Slack or inbox, any notification channel that you may have selected, and it sends the notification to that appropriate channel. This is what an admin might be doing typically, setting up the survey and scheduling it. Now, let me walk you through what it looks like from an end user standpoint, somebody who receives the survey notification. So if I look at Slack, we have a Slack application called OnSurvey again, where as soon as the schedule survey notification job runs on our side, we send the Slack notification to the recipients. And when you click on the notification, you can open in Slack, and it opens up as a quick form within Slack. There is no external browser URL link that might feel cumbersome. Somebody who's very comfortable with Slack, they can come in quickly and select the survey responses and then submit it. And this is a very quick way for small surveys to do it all within Slack. And of course, it can be a little bit longer as well. But typically 10 to 12 questions within the Slack UI, it's a very quick way to get feedback. Once submitted, we also provide a feedback back to the user saying that the survey has been received successfully. Similar experience with Microsoft Teams, where you get the notification. What you provide here as part of the subject or the title, as well as the body, including the ability to have the name of the person that is receiving the survey, all of that is configurable. User can click on open in Teams, they get a similar form, and then they can submit the survey. So we know that a lot of organizations use Teams and Slack. Employees are in Teams or in Slack doing their work. And this we feel is a convenient way for them to submit notifications, submit surveys, especially one of the goals being of any survey is to get as many responses back as possible. We wanted to ensure that these options are available. If we go to Workday inbox, I just logged in as Meredith Baxter here, and you can see that what the inbox notification looks like. So this is what the inbox notification from OnSurvey will look like. It'll go to all the workers that are part of your survey recipient audience, and they can click on the link. It opens the link in a browser, and they can complete the survey here as well. That's a quick overview in terms of what the user experience looks like. We just to summarize, Slack and Teams, native applications that allows you to complete surveys, or you can send emails. Obviously, when you do external surveys, for example, either candidates or suppliers, your own customers, where they obviously you do not have access to their Slack, Teams, or they may not even be in Workday at least to use Workday inbox. You can have an email sent out to them with a link that the suppliers or candidates can complete. Once the survey responses are submitted, all the responses are stored within within Workday. So you can get a quick view here in the uh, application landing page. But to get more details, we provide a simple, basically an object that is exposed for you to write your own custom report. So for example, here I have a custom report where Jose Silva is the person who submitted the survey. But because it's a Workday object that connects that worker data with existing Workday object data, we can pull in any additional columns. So here, for example, I'm pulling in Jose's title, their supervisory org, etc. So this is all because of the join that we can pull any field that you're interested in analyzing, maybe slicing and dicing, and then what the questions and the responses were as part of that particular survey. All of this data is now available as a custom report. It allows you to do either create a dashboard, share it with others, leverage the worksheet functionality within Workday if you want to do some quick analysis. Or obviously, if you have Prism Analytics, that's another good way to do advanced dashboards and such as well. So this is a quick overview in terms of how the surveys are set up, how it is sent to end users, and then finally these analytics coming out of the Workday custom report, so that this custom report is again secure by default, so it can be shared only to certain employees, certain HR team members, or as I mentioned earlier, it can be shared with managers so that they can only see responses of their team members. That's an overview, Prabhu. You're on mute.
To give a quick overview of where is OnSurvey, right? Like how do you get started? OnSurvey is available in Workday Marketplace. So, in the Workday Marketplace, you search for OnSurvey. The app is available, and you can see the features that Girish laid out with the demo. And you can get in touch with us using the get information, reach out, contact us button. We will also be available at Workday Rising, where we will be showcasing OnSurvey on September 17th in the Workday Marketplace booth as well. So if you are attending Workday Rising, let us know. Would be glad to meet in person. So to summarize, right, OnSurvey is a built-on Workday application where you can, create, send, receive the end-to-end survey process, employee feedback, all within Workday itself. Um, Surveys can be configurable for events. So, it could be a hiring event, it could be a promotion event, it could be a change of location event where you could schedule, so, surveys to be sent out. And as Girish showed, when surveys are sent, employees can use their, collaboration platform to submit the responses, right? So if you're using Slack, you can submit the survey response right within Slack. You don't have to switch to a different screen. Same applies for Microsoft Teams as well. And finally, the big piece of it is like why we do surveys is to, measure, understand where the pain points are, and to make a change or improve the process, right? That data to insights to action. In terms of Workday, you can do that as Workday reports. You can generate your reports, share with the stakeholders to in a secure way by inheriting the Workday security policies. And if you are comfortable with worksheets, you can use Workday worksheets. And if you have access to Prism, you can use it for advanced analytics. That's a quick summary. If you have any interest, feel free to reach us out. And let me see if there are any questions in the chat window. Um, I do not see any questions. Maybe one, well, like, a question for, Girish, right? In terms of survey tools, we see a lot of survey tools, right? Like, something like as simple as Microsoft Forms to an enterprise tool like Qualtrics. Let's take an example of Qualtrics itself, right? Like, say, if I am a Workday customer, I run my HR, finance, or, the whole gamut in Workday, and I use Qualtrics to get service. Um, Give me, like, say, for a customer, what sort of integrations that need to be done, the things involved, and how customer can get started on a tool like OnSurvey.
Yes, I think Qualtrics is obviously the market leader, huge organization for surveys, and they provide I believe, a lot of flexibility in terms of how surveys can be done and to whom it is sent, as well as a pretty complex or comprehensive as well analytics layer. But when it comes to Workday specific surveys, if you want to send surveys to a set of workers or customers, suppliers, etc., you need to first push all of that data from Workday to Qualtrics,
Correct.
which is an integration project in itself.
Correct.
Once that is done, now you need to make sure that it's not a one and done. It has to be maintained in sync. Every time a new worker comes on board or terminate, whatever happens, it needs to be in sync. So that's an integration project in itself that needs to be set up. Once that is done, Qualtrics can send surveys. But when you do analytics, again, it is now in Qualtrics, probably available to those who have access to Qualtrics, or sent as a email or a one-time report of data back to anybody interested in service. So that is the thing about Qualtrics. It's, I think, great for market research and those type of things. What we provide is being on top of Workday. That integration is already built in, and the ability to quickly define a survey for a specific audience, and then more importantly, I believe, to share the results with the appropriate people. That's the big difference for us.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's not just the survey, right? There is a pre-setup to do the integration, and then the post to get the survey responses, etc.
That's right.
Um, there is a question from Matt. What's the difference between OnSurvey and the native Workday survey? Yeah, that's a great question, right? Maybe Girish, you can get started. I can add later.
Sure. If you look at the native Workday surveys, it's a feature that is available to all Workday customers. And if you want to send a quick survey for existing workers on a specific business process event, it works great. What we are providing is the ability to configure additional filters whom you want to send it to, any event across either worker, student, customer, supplier, across the board, any event, and the ability to now combine the worker object in the response that you receive. Workday surveys has some limitation, at least today, in terms of how and which objects you can join from between the survey response and the rest of the worker data. So that's something that is at least initially a few differences. If you want to do customer suppliers, obviously Workday service does not work today. It is limited to the workers object.
Um, in terms of the survey templates, we plan to, share out of the box several templates that customer can use to get started. For it could be student related, new hire, benefits, onboarding, hiring manager. So it's a collection of templates where you can just get started. And let's say hiring manager, survey, you have ability to like a Google form or a Microsoft form, add new questions, change it, and ready to go survey templates. And also, as Girish mentioned, meeting the employee within their collaboration. So if your customer uses Slack, you can send a Slack notification immediately to get the survey responses. And finally, unauthenticated, right? Where I want to send it to one of the customer implementation that we are currently going through is I want to get feedback from a candidate who withdrew from an interview process, right? Usually the candidate has not joined the organization, and so there is no Workday user, etc. Right? I still want to reach out to the candidate and ask for feedback. How was the process? Why did you withdraw, etc. And that comes handy with a tool like OnSurvey. And the beauty is all that is all within Workday, right? You can configure it, you can send it, receive it, report it, etc. Um, Hope this is useful. If there are any follow-up questions, let us know. Um, okay, can surveys be part of a business process? Can you send surveys based on job code, etc.? Absolutely. Maybe if you want to show the screen, Grish.
Yes. To answer your question, it can be sent to any custom report as well. So by default, it means that you can add any filter on job code, supervisory org, etc. It can be part of a business process. Any business process event, once completed, you can set it up so that it can be sent to the person who completed that business process. Survey support branching logic. Yep, absolutely. Within the survey template, you can set up branching logic where based on how that particular question was answered, you can show other questions and such. So typical branching, condition, validation, all of that can be set up. And SSO, for survey recipients, SSO, if it is within Slack and Teams, yes, it's supported. I think that's hopefully that answers your question, Matt. Awesome.
All right. I think we are nearing our time as well. Thank you, Melissa, for giving an overview of Wilson, your experience. Thank you, team, for joining. We'll be sharing the recording next week in our YouTube channel, and I'll share the links as well. Thanks, everyone.